Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5 Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about the Knights of Columbus planning to cover the controversial artwork of Father Marco Rupnik, who has been disavowed by the Jesuits because of allegations of sexual abuse. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, secutor in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancto. Amen. All right, Knights of Columbus. You guys, I'm sure know the Knights. There's almost 2 million of them registered. The Knights were founded in the late 1800s, really as a response to the growing Freemasonry in the United States, and how a lot of Catholic immigrants at the time were joining Freemasonry. So Father McGivney, the founder of the Knights, created the Knights, and it's grown exponentially in the last 100 years to the point where Father McGivney, I believe there is a case for his sainthood that has been released. But recently, the head of the Knights has come out and said that they're going to cover the artwork of Father Marco Rupnik in the John Paul II Shrine in DC, and also in their particular specific church in Connecticut. Now, who is Father Marco Rupnik? So when I heard about Father Rupnik, it reminded me of Rape of the Soul. Now, Rape of the Soul was a documentary that was done, it's got to be at least 15 years ago, about Father Stephen Stemper. So Father Stephen Stemper used to do the artwork for Oregon Catholic Press. And so I did an episode here, and I'll put a banner up here at the top about it. So he was a pedophile priest who was putting, I know, wait for it here, satanic and pornographic imagery into his artwork that was the main artwork in Oregon Catholic Press. Now, Oregon Catholic Press is one of the largest, if not largest, purveyor of missalettes in the Catholic world. Now, OCP didn't know that Semper was doing this, at least ostensibly didn't know. And then when it came out about his activities and shenanigans, he was put away, and then eventually he died. So when I heard about Rupkin, it's somewhat similar to that. If you're familiar with his artwork, you're probably not familiar necessarily with his name, but you've probably seen his artwork in a host of missalettes or in a church basilica shrine, because he has his artwork in over hundreds of these places. He's been painting or doing mosaics for decades. He has a center in Rome where he does most of this stuff. And personally, I don't find any of his work attractive. It is too abstract and modernist. Yes, he does have some that are more traditional mosaics, but as a whole, it's not my cup of tea. And maybe it's because I've been tainted by the Brother Semple OCP controversy. And Rape of the Soul was a documentary, I think it was Michael Chalis that did it. And I'll see if I can put a link in the episode notes. It came out about 10 to 15 years ago, where he shows you in Brother Semple's work, he'll show the pictures of the satanic imagery or the pornographic stuff. And it just reminded me, maybe I'm tainted by that kind of modern art, because Brother Semple was doing that kind of modern art in his OCP publications. But Rupkin has a lot of allegations that are legitimate against him, or seem to be legitimate. At least 30 different nuns have come out and alleged serious abuse, psychological and sexual and physical abuse. He has been investigated and eventually was dropped by the Jesuits. Yes, he was a Jesuit. He was dropped by the Jesuits, and he was incardinated, or supposed to go back to Slovenia, his home country, but he's still hanging out in Rome after all this during these investigations. So speaking of the Knights, I wanted to read what Mr. Kelly said about the Knights and why they are putting down or covering the artwork. Quote, "The Knights of Columbus have decided to cover these mosaics because our first concern must be for victims of the sexual abuse who have already suffered immensely in the church and who may be further injured by the ongoing display of the mosaics at the shrine. While opinions varied among those consulted, there was a strong consensus to prioritize the needs of victims, especially because the allegations are current, unresolved, and horrific. Our decision process really came down to multiple factors, but the number one factor was compassion for victims. We needed to prioritize victims over anything any material thing. So that was our primary consideration. This is what he told EWTN. Kudos to the Knights. Kudos to the Knights. Love you guys. Love you guys. I believe I'm nominally part of the Knights. Yes, I have joined the Knights. I joined several years ago. I don't go to the meetings. But kudos to them, because this is a message. See, this is what we need more of, is he's under investigation. His artwork is controversial. Let's take down his stuff, because it is traumatic to people. So they're taking it down. See, that is actuating. That is doing something. I love it when men are militant and actually do something about stuff. So they're planning to at least cover at the JP2 church and in their church in Connecticut, to cover it with something temporary, and then eventually they're looking at covering it up permanently. And this might be a trend. You might see this happen at a lot of churches, basilicas, where Father Rupkin's work has been painted. And we'll keep an eye on this and see what the investigations look like. But if it's severe enough where the Jesuits had to kick him out, then it's something about. Of course, obviously the Vatican knows what's going on. Pope Francis actually did something to accelerate the investigation in these proceedings against Father Rupkin. But as the last I've checked, he's still hanging out in Rome at his art center despite all this. But kudos to the Knights, guys. Kudos to you. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.